Okay, so let's start Mohawk here. There's no turn marker. I'll throw this into place to use as it, or I could flip it over. I'm not quite sure what these are even for. They look like burned something or other. You can burn forts. Maybe you can burn these permanent forts with them. I don't know. At least I'm assuming those are permanent. So like simply removing them wouldn't make sense. I'm not really sure. So anyway, things open up with the naval combat maneuver. And I've chosen to throw the French down kind of at random, except for Louisburg where I'm sending the troop convoy. That's sort of the obvious move though. And the obvious move for the English is to throw their own naval squadron down there. And then to kind of randomize the others, I guess. They could all just be randomized, and in a sense, that may be the safer move. But, well, let's see what we get here. So the French are going to have a +1 to their 0, and the English have a +3. So the English win this race, and their ships get in here. So that's going to be a couple of European regulars that are going to show up. And I'll just throw them over there to help me remember. They get them during their own reinforcement phase. Over here, well, the French have the +1 here. And they're again beaten by the English. That's going to be assignments and supplies. Or is that appointments and supplies? Appointments, I can't read. Which is going to be a muster of 4 militia and 2 colonial regulars. Again, I'll put the colonial regulars on there, but again, these don't happen until the Brits get their turn and the French get to go first. Okay, here we have naval squadrons for both sides. And the English again win. Historically, the English did not do quite so dominatingly at sea, I think, during this era, but we'll see. And here I've got the English troop convoy, but it's being hit by a privateer, which is +2 for the French, and the French knock that down. And that'll give the French their 1 victory, which is going to be allowing either 5 Indians to rendezvous with a coureur de bois, or muster some militia. Now, if I gather the Indians, the problem with that is that I've already got an Indian with each coureur de bois, but on the other hand, with my focus over here, it might be very valuable to get a set of Indians together. So I think I'm probably going to do that rather than just throw some more militia on the board. And then we hit the reinforcement and recruiting, and that's essentially what's happening here now. Since the French go first, right? I'm not sure. See, what I'm not sure of is how the turns play. It actually looks to me that one person goes before the other person, but here's the in each phase a person goes. But here's the problem with that. If that's the case, the English can leave battle in the midst of things. So I'm going to look to see if there's any example, but I think there really isn't. This game is, you know, they made about half the rules for it, is what it comes to. Kind of spelled out here. The French move first, landing their reinforcements and rolling 2 dice. couriers march, then they go through the sequence of play, and it is the British turn, which to me sounds like somewhere around here, the rolling for movement step, we split into 2 separate player turns. They don't bother to actually explain that though. Okay, so now I go for the rolling of movement, and I get to roll 2 dice. The red will be for my Indians and Rangers, and I'll be getting 5 movement points on each. Now I jump down to the musters. Why the movement roll isn't near the actual movement rules? Well, because maybe this is where they wanted to split the game into 2 separate player turns. So now I get my special muster of militia, because this is the first turn of the year, and I'll be getting 3 militia pieces already on the board, may be moved to any point in the original holdings. So this doesn't bring extra militia on board, it just allows you to shift them for your campaign. So it is kind of a point of movement, and you want to know these die rolls to know what you're going to be doing, I guess. So my goal here is to grab Albany and try to position myself for an attack on Boston. That's actually what I hope to do. I own down to here. So, question of course is, what can I afford to shift militia-wise? I don't really want to give a lot of ground here. This doesn't look terribly important. I don't want to give up Quebec, of course. And I'll take from Fort Lewis. And I'm going to shift all of these down here into points in my original holdings still in friendly hands. Now there's no way to mark what's friendly and what's not, which is kind of troublesome. The other thing is, the rules for the Iroquois are just so disturbing. Let's find them for a moment. So, after each battle, the victor turns up one of his tribes. Now, somewhere they talked about what was a victory. For purposes, a victory is defined as any battle win, capture of any fort, town, point, or village previously held by the enemy. Well, points, villages, and such not, that's just spaces as far as I can see. That seems trivial. I can swing the entire Iroquois Confederation over to me for no cost, essentially. I really do not like this. I just can't believe that's what was intended. It's of course what the rules are written as, but I'm not going to play them as written. I'm going to say it has to be something of vague importance, like knocking out a fort would count. But just moving into these areas, I can get 3 of them fairly easily without any effort at all. I'm going to do some of my Indian movement. I have a 5 on the die. I'll move these Courrier de Bois. That's 1. I'm spending my first point to move there, but because I get double movement and these guys don't have to follow the mode, the same mode. Regulars and militia do, but these guys are tricky, so they don't. I'll take my second one, and I think I'm following this waterway down to here. Now I spend another one, and I sail to here, and now I'll spend another one to destroy the fort. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I would kind of like to hold that fort, but I don't think I'm going to go for an all-out victory here. because this is the first turn. Anyway, that was a location taken, so we'll Frenchify one of these. And now I still have a movement point off of here that I'll spend to here. I'll spend one more to get into Albany. Now, I believe 6-1 is the overrun rules. So I capture Albany. Militia, permanently dead, sort of, kind of. They do come back. Okay, well that's Albany. I still have another move point for my natives. And I'll move down there with them. Now my other move, I'm going to move my militia. And I'm following Indian Trail here, green. So I can only go one space. Is New Haven one of the places I can win the game with? I think the game's over, by the way. I'd have to end the turn, or begin a turn holding everything. And it's Boston and Philadelphia. Okay. So for 2, I'm going to move to here. That gets me, that's a waterway, but I still have to spend it. And then one more. I think I've got 2 left, actually. I slide here into Boston. Now I got another move of regulars or whatnot, and I'm gonna spend to fall back here to Lake Champlain. Again, I'm following the waterway there, and well, I feel pretty safe up here at Montreal. Oh, yeah, I haven't taken anything else. So I'm gonna ride the road there for my last movement point. Now at this point, no one else can spend more than 2 a turn. Shit. I screwed up here. I had gathered here. That could only get me to here. So I'm not going to make it down to Boston yet. But I am putting a lot of pressure. I already have that fortified. Basically, I have another movement point left. Here at Saint Jean, I can't do sea lift with the French. There really isn't a whole hell of a lot I can do with these guys, but I'm worried about the possibility of an English invasion there, if anything. So I'm going to fortify Saint Jean, because that could be kind of annoying, them slipping up this way, I guess. Alright. And that's going to put us to, I guess, the combat segment. And there is a player whose turn it is. So, we actually only have one fight here. Wow. I thought there were troops. Oh, we overran the troops in Albany. Okay, so we have no combat. And that means no promotion. Looks to me like we're going to be going to the British side of the turn. I need a break. Okay, so on the English side of the 1754 turn, first we muster our reinforcements, and basically I sent two regulars into New York. Looks like 2 regulars into Boston. I raised my militia in Boston. But I also got to muster, and I did that, remember the appointments and supplies, I think it is, gave me 2 colonial regulars, but also it gives me 4 militia pieces. I threw 2 in Johnston Hall. I've got some more I can raise. I'll raise 1 in New York here. And another one in New York, just to give me a bigger pile of regular militia there. All right, now I get to roll the dice. The red die is going to be my shipping die roll. If that gets high enough, I could bring troops out of Alexandria. Well, it's only a 1. That's not going to help me terribly much. So I'm kind of stuck behind with that. But I've got a 4 ground unit movement. Now, I'm worried about a couple of things. I'm worried about Albany here. So, since this is pretty hard for the French to reach, I can just spend 1 of my movement to ship units up from New York. I'll spend another 1 of my movement to march up out of Boston. I got 2 more movement. I'll come out of New Haven and Johnston Hall. And basically, my feeling with these is the territories, the Iroquois are blocking the French from moving south right into my heartland. Actually, their slice across here was kind of risky. But now we get to set up our fights. And as the attacker, I can choose my fights in whatever order I like. I'm going to pick this space. Let's pull what we got out of there. And I'll put a little marker there. Now, Hartford is a circle. And I traveled there via both Green and the water from New Haven. So a circle is a town that's going to be affected by the transport. And since I have green and blue, I'm forced to fight in the woods here, which means the French will be lining up here, and then the English, well, I got some regulars that I'll throw up front, regular militia, town militia, regular militia. That seems like a good setup there. Actually, I'm not sure who sets up first. Anyway, how big a deal is that? The attacker chooses pieces or place, the defender sets up first, and the attacker lines up after him. Okay, so now I've decided combat's mainly simultaneous. That's, again, not clear in the rules. So let's see what I have here. I think these are regulars, even if they're not. Even if they're not, what do I want to say here? British regulars, colonial regulars, yeah. Even if they're not British regulars. So, but the French have just regular militia here. And these are going to be militia fighting in the woods or at zeros, and the regulars are also at 0. So I'm going to roll these 1 at a time. 1 white die for the French. Hey, they were white at the time. And 2 red dice for the British. They need 6s across the line there. And the Brits get 1 hit on the French. That's marked by flipping it over. Same here. Militia are just as good in the woods as regulars. Okay, an Englishman got hit, and I'm going to hit a regular for this. And then the final attack. And there's no success there. Okay. Now, see, the way it speaks about a player's firing turn makes it almost sound like the defensive advantage should be there. We're in this space. The French are able to send an additional unit in, is how I'll read this. And they're going to stick around, I think, because if they retreat, they lose the victory point for the battle. And now, well, the problem here is neither side's wiped out, so I think the French are going to get an extra die in that battle. I'll actually put it over on this one. Because dressing the lines, if you have no enemy against them, you could be placed in front of the... It's kind of a weird situation. You feel like it should split off. It shouldn't be 2 dice versus 2 dice, but that's what it seems to come to. So, notably, the Indians in the woods are going to be at +2 on their roll. And I'm going to be, well, I'll roll the first attack here. And there's no success there. I'm going to roll the Indian reinforcement first. Doesn't hit. And otherwise, everything's normal. One of the French get killed. And then the other force. And another French gets killed. And now here's a problem. I might want to retreat by not rolling our fire. But that seems such a harsh thing, so instead I'm going to throw another Indian into the actually this is a coureur de bois into the battle and hope for the best. So we'll do the first one there. And of course the French would be in much better shape if they got a first fire, which it's not clear. Okay, so that's a hit on the English, and then a hit on the French. So the English are going to lose a regular, which goes right back in here. I'm going to kill another one of these. And now we're in the same position here, where, let's see, first the bonus unit gets a hit, and the French get another hit. I'm going to kill off another regular. Now we have a problem where we need to spread things out. And we'll spread this out. And now the English can hunt, and they'll go after the coureur de bois. We'll roll that round. I really hate these long die roll out type situations. You know, it's one thing in something like La Grande Guerre to have a detailed combat system, but when it's just buckets of dice, it just bores me. It doesn't serve much purpose, in my opinion. And then in the final one, nothing happened, and everybody's sticking around. I'm going to back off and continue fighting. I don't want to eat up too much video on just lots and lots of die rolling. A couple rounds where nothing happened, then everything fell at once, and now I've got these coureur de bois facing really a pretty hefty force. Now the question is, do I want to retreat and probably save a decent unit, or, and that would be up here, I guess, to New Hampshire, I think. Yeah, I can't read the map very well, but when you zoom in, it's easier to see. Or do I want to take a good chance at being able to kill, say, some of these militia? I'm going to get out of there. and the Brits get a shot at me on the way out. And they miss. So I fall back. Everything recovers that's still alive, and that flips one of the Iroquois. Now we have the same to do with a larger and more annoying, oops, we did that wrong. With a larger and more annoying battle here at Albany. Now Albany's a disc, and we came up by either water, I think there's no option there. And I think that'll put us in the woods again. And let's set up the defense. And this is all natives. Now the danger with the natives, of course, is they only have one step for most of them, except for the Iroquois. So they're pretty easily wiped out. The coureurs de bois do have multiple steps, though. However, doesn't really matter what we set up where, because they're all equally bad. And I'll start rolling off some hits there, and this is going to be great fun. I really hate this kind of combat system. It's one of the things that depresses me about any buckets of dice type game. It's one thing to have one round of combat, but to have it keep going and going where both sides maybe want to stick around, it just really gets tiresome. And the natives are disintegrating, but all the same they're shooting up the Brits pretty well. Now, because of the importance of the Iroquois situation, I don't really want to lose a battle. Yeah, we're at even right now, but overall it seems like that's going to be a real deciding factor to the war, is who gets control of the Iroquois. So both sides kind of need to stick around and prove that they can win, I guess. Another round this time, I think, with no, there was one native maybe lost, I don't know. Anyway, if there was, I screwed up because I shifted forces around. Brits are definitely taking a decent amount of losses from this. There was something I wanted to say, but I don't remember what the hell it was. Alright, down towards the end here, and forces are really kind of dissolving. I still don't want to leave with the French because of the possible loss of the Iroquois. Figure I'll get reinforcements, be able to move around and such not, but if I can win the battle, it's a big thing. And it's hard to tell. Here, obviously, I have the advantage. Here, it's not so obvious, but those two-step units, getting rid of things that they're not really permanently gone, but they're largely out of play. They recover slowly, if I recall correctly. So shooting them up is of some value. Of course, the Indians are gone forever, I think, but I've still got large reserves of them back there that I can pull into play if I get the correct ship of shipping back into play. I'm trying to find the rule as to what gets flipped and what doesn't. i.e., not what gets flipped, but what gets put in the permanent, because I've got this coureur de bois here, and I'm not sure if that goes in. And I'm not finding it, so I'm going to have to reread the whole rules to try to find that. But I did realize, shit, I got these guys here. Now, they were in a battle, but they can still start reinforcing, so I'm going to be pumping, I guess, some of these into play to try to overwhelm the French, force them into a position. I'm down to this one Indian. It probably will stick around just trying to kill stuff. The coureur de bois do go back into the counterpool, so they're available again. I gotta plug in, get some using battery power on this damn thing. The French decided to withdraw, and they got away free. Now, that puts us to promotion. We had a battle where the victor held the ground in a couple of places where he gets to promote his militia. So these guys promote to regulars. And here, these guys heal. And I'm going to promote them as well. Getting some additional troops. Okay. What else are we at? There's nothing for the Iroquois. Somewhere there was a new units coming in. Okay, well, here's the problem. We have some supply rolls, and I may be out of terrain there. At the end of the year, all regular and militia units must be able to trace supply to their base of operations. I think we're able to do this without a problem, but now we have another problem that I forgot about. You can't end in a space without a town or a fort or not connected. Now, towns are circled white spots. So, where am I? That's one of these. These Indians, they're fine, I think. So I think we're okay. I don't think I moved anywhere stupid, because I've got forts and such not. But I seem to remember there was a replenishment of these damn things that I went over in the rules. There we go. A militia muster. Okay, militia returns home before supply determination. This is close to it, but I don't know. Maybe this is the rule that I'm thinking of. Maybe those things are just destroyed. Let's keep looking. A militia muster, so maybe I thought these came back instead of just being this mustering. So the militia goes home to its turn before to wherever it came from. British militia to the countermix return from the dead pile at a rate of 1 at the start of each year. But the French do not. Okay, so this goes to Portsmouth. This goes back down to New Haven. This has to go back to Saint-Jean. This goes back to Montreal. These, because I'm missing the Beaujolais counter, I am going to leave this Quebec counter there. I just think I'm missing a counter. I'm not sure because there aren't, you know, like I'm not missing any Indians, it doesn't look like, or whatever. I guess there's a total count of the counters, but I don't know. I could, of course, make myself a new counter if I thought that was the case. But actually, no, I don't think they tell you how many counters there are in the game. So we're going to be moving into the beginning of 1755 at this point. And you know what? I think I've shown a decent amount of the actual play, at least how I'm boiling it down. I think I'm doing wrong with the firing. I think the defensive fire is supposed to get this big advantage of shooting first, the way I keep seeing the rules worded. As it's the beginning of a year, shit, I'm going to have to try to remember that something can come on here. I'm going to put an Albany one here to try to remind me. That'll just go back in the pile there, but it's at the beginning of the turn, not the end of the turn, so I don't want to put 2 units there. Alright, let's send this one up as the first of the playthrough videos.